In the opening scene, we are introduced to a martial arts expert and assassin named Thunderleg. For his entire life, Thunderleg has trained to be the best fighter in the world. He is known for his signature technique called Devil's Kick, a swift and deadly kicking style that can defeat even the best opponents. One day, he receives a letter from a client who wants him to kill a prominent kung fu master named Wei. He is also paid a hefty sum of money for his services. Not wasting much time, Thunder goes to Wei and challenges him to a fight. Wei offers him double the amount of money for his life, but Thunder refuses. Even though he is a fugitive, he is a man of high principles when it comes to his work. The fight starts, and a master like Wei is proven weak in front of Thunder. He shows amazing footwork and defeats the opponent in a matter of minutes. In the following scene, we are taken to the best martial arts training center in the town. It is run by a master named Wong and his disciple professor, Kai. The trainees are scared of Wong, but none of them fear Kai. The most notorious one of all the trainees is Wong's own son, Freddy. He teases Kai and laughs at the others at his misery. When Kai realizes what is going on, he calls out Freddy for being a spoiled brat and taking advantage of his father's position and having a white-ass name. They decide to settle the conflict with a fight. Kai loses because even though he is a professor, he is not half as good as Freddy. The man has a natural talent in martial arts and is only lacking proper discipline. Later that day, Freddy is with his friends in the market, planning to prank people as they usually do. He uses an eel to scare a girl and make her jump on him. However, he is caught by the girl's mother. She is also a master in kung fu and is better than any opponents Freddy has faced. He is taught a lesson before he registers he cannot win against her and flees. Luck is not in Freddy's favor that day because on the way back home, he sees a guy named Jerry. He is troubling a poor seller by refusing to pay the right amount. Freddy stands against the bully and defeats him in a fight to make him pay the seller, and because he has an even whiter ass name than Freddy. Before leaving, he warns Jerry to stay out of his sight if he values his life. In the evening, he returns home and sees that the girl he pranked earlier and her mother are with his father. Freddy tries his best to ignore them, but his father calls him closer to introduce him to the guests. It turns out they are his aunt and cousin, who have come to visit them from a different city. They tell Master Wong about his son's shenanigans, getting Freddy in trouble. Just when he is about to be punished, they are interrupted by a landowner named Lee. He is Jerry's father and is furious at Freddy for beating up his son. Jerry is also brought in front of Master Wong, covered in bandages from all the injuries inflicted upon him. Lee doesn't want an apology, but wants Freddy to be punished for his crimes. Wong brings out a stick to hit Freddy, but is stopped by his aunt. She asks the victim's friends to punish Freddy in a way that they prefer, but they only get 10 hits on him and he cannot fight back in between the hits. One of Jerry's friends confidently comes forward, but fails to recognize that even if Freddy cannot counterattack, he can defend himself. His first few hits go to waste because Freddy is able to deflect each one of them. Eventually, the 10 attacks are over, and Freddy is still standing upright with no major injuries. When the opponent tries going for an extra attack, Freddy sends him flying with a single hit. Lee and his goons have to pick Jerry up and return home in embarrassment, but Master Wong's anger hasn't died down yet. Starting the next day, he makes Freddy go through a series of brutal punishments. He is made to squat with bowls on his head and shoulders for hours every day. Still, Freddy and his friends find several ways to cheat their way out of the punishment. Master Wong finds out about this and is fed up with his son's lack of discipline. Deciding to take a major step, he calls his brother, a legendary kung fu master named Sam. He is best known for the drunken style of kung fu and is unbeatable when drunk. Wong believes that under his care, even someone like Freddy will start taking life seriously. Until he arrives, Freddy is kept in the outhouse with a heavy pot hung on his neck as punishment. His friend rescues him and reveals that Master Sam is not a usual person. He tortures his students so much that they are unrecognizable by the end of the training. Once he arrives, Freddy might as well wish farewell to his freedom and peace. Upon hearing all of the gruesome things that Sam has done, Freddy no longer wants to meet him. He runs away and ends up at a restaurant by the end of the day. Since he is penniless, he tricks a man into treating him to a meal, but the man turns out to be the restaurant's owner. His goons start a fight with Freddy for trying to cheat them. In the same restaurant, Master Sam is in enjoying a meal. He recognizes Freddy and helps him fight the goons. Freddy is thankful to the stranger for his help. As they talk, he starts insulting Master Sam, failing to recognize that he is the same man. After berating him all he wants, Freddy stops and asks the stranger his name. Upon finding out that he has the whitest name of them all, and is the master, Freddy's face changes color. He tries to make a run for it. When that doesn't work, he foolishly attempts to fight Sam and is taught a quick lesson. Starting the next day, his training begins, and his first task is to repeatedly transfer water from one massive pot to another. He looks for the right moment and pretends to have fallen into one of the pots. When Sam comes to his aid, he is tricked and trapped inside. Freddy then runs away and comes to rest at an abandoned building. The place turns out to be the hideout of the dangerous assassin, Thunderleg. He orders Freddy to go away, but unaware of the killer's identity, Freddy refuses. As a result, Thunderleg proceeds to beat up and humiliate him. He is about to kill him, but stops because killing a mere weakling like Freddy would harm his reputation. Freddy's life is saved, but he hasn't been more embarrassed in his entire life. The anger turns into the will to get revenge on Thunder, and for that, he has to train. In the following scene, he goes back to Sam, apologizing and begging him for his help. Sam takes him back, giving him the last chance to prove himself. The first step in training is to multiply his arm strength. This is done by Sam tying sticks to his hands and using him like a puppet. After training the entire day, Freddy has a hard time using chopsticks at dinner. He doubts if he can ever be as strong as Thunder, but as the days pass, he feels his arms gaining strength. The first quarter of the training ends when he can break walnuts with his bare fingers. Then, one day, the master and student go to a local betting zone to gamble. Sam is an experienced gambler with very sharp eyes. He wins every single round and makes a lot of money, much to the annoyance of his opponents. They are interrupted by a bald man who thinks he can defeat Sam. They put all their money on the last round, but the man cheats to win. Upon being proven a fraud, he panics and starts blaming Sam. Freddy challenges him to a fight, thinking it will be an easy win, but the bald man reveals he has been trained in skull-style kung fu and has a powerful head. He overpowers Freddy in the first half of the fight, but Freddy gets his hands on a hammer and defeats the guy in the end. A while later, Master Sam runs out of his favorite alcohol and asks Freddy to get him some from a restaurant. However, he instead eats a large meal with the money and dilutes the alcohol with water, assuming that Sam won't know the difference. Somewhere else, the bald-headed guy brings the Bamboo Master to beat up Sam for what he did earlier. The Bamboo Master has his stick, but Sam lacks his biggest source of power, which is alcohol. Freddy arrives at the right time, but Sam instantly recognizes that the alcohol is diluted. As a result, both of them cannot fight the Bamboo Master, so they decide to flee. At night, Freddy blames Sam for not teaching him properly because he couldn't defeat the Bamboo Master. Sam reveals that until now, he had only been learning the basics of the drunken kung fu technique. Now that he has mastered the basics, he will have to learn the more important parts. The duo then drinks until they are drunk out of their minds. When an average person can hardly walk with this much alcohol in their system, Sam can perform the techniques of all 7 masters of kung fu. Freddy learns about the masters and their strengths and weaknesses. After training for hours and hours, he finally begins to get a hang of the complicated techniques of kung fu. He is also much more disciplined than he was before, and takes the training more seriously. One day, the landowner Lee comes to Master Wong, asking him to sell his land. Wong knows that Lee wants to misuse the land by converting it into a coal mine. Lee even offers him 20% of the profit, but Wong kicks him out. In the following scene, Thunderleg receives a letter from a client. The sender is Lee, who wants him to murder Wong. Thunder takes on the task and gets ready to go to the city. Somewhere else, Freddy is walking home with alcohol when he comes across the Bamboo Master. He remembers how he and Sam were humiliated by the man and decides to take revenge. He provokes the man, urging him to make the first attack. The fight seems to be neutral until Freddy drinks alcohol. When he is drunk, no one can fight against him, not even the popular Bamboo Master. He defeats the man almost hilariously before stealing 2 large pots of his wine. However, on reaching home, he is shocked to see Sam is missing. He finds a letter where the master has thanked him for believing in his teachings. He says Freddy has learned everything there is to know about drunken kung fu. Hence, he has completed his task. and is leaving. Back in the training center, a man runs to Wong in a panic and reveals that Lee and his people are taking over the land by force. An enraged Wong goes to teach them a lesson, but finds no one. It is revealed that the notice was a trick played by Thunderleg to get Wong alone. Thunder is especially excited about the battle because he is always looking for a stronger opponent. He thinks Wong is a perfect match for him, and his death will elevate Thunder's reputation. The fight begins, and the two match in strength and technique for some time, but when Thunder decides to use the Devil's Kick, even the mighty Wong is defeated. He is thrown to the ground and is seconds away from being killed when one of his disciples brings Freddy. His blood boils on seeing his father injured. He gets ready to fight the opponent in Wong's place. Thunderleg remembers him from the time he was humiliated. To the assassin, it is a joke, because he thinks Freddy is the same person who ran away with his tail between his legs the first time. Just then, Sam arrives at the battlefield, much to Freddy's delight. Thunderleg freezes in shock, knowing what the drunken master is capable of. It turns out he is the only person the deadly assassin is scared of, but Sam assures him that he will not interfere in the fight. He wants it to be between his student and Thunder. The fight starts, and Freddy dodges all of Thunder's attacks. The opponent gets frustrated and makes a mistake, giving Freddy an upper hand. In the end, he uses his arm strength to snap Thunder's neck and defeats him. Lastly, Freddy stands as the victor, and his father is finally proud of him. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like.